Hey, it's Dan Ward again with Key Group at EXP, back with another video helping out our clients. In particular, this video is focused on our buyer clients. One of the things we always talk about in our buyer's consultation is some of the key things that you should do as a buyer when you're searching for your property, searching for the house that you want to buy, your dream home, your next home, or your first home. Even experienced homeowners sometimes fall into this, I'm going to say pitfall, but they fall into this practice of going online and searching for houses. Or maybe they're houses that your agent has sent you, but you're on Zillow or you're on Realtor or you're on your portal on the MLS and you're looking for homes, you're looking for the bedrooms, bathrooms, the things that obviously are most important to you as a home buyer. But one of the things that you're probably focused on is how nice those photos look, how nice the pictures look. Does the exterior of the house, is it appealing to you? And so it's easy to kind of fall into this trap of falling in love with the way the house looks in the pictures and skipping over a lot of the really important factors and features of the house that may help you probably save some time, maybe save you some disappointment. That's one of the emotional roller coasters that our buyers typically go on, is falling in love with the house and the pictures. And then when you get there in person, finding out it's not exactly what you were hoping for. So here's 5 key tips to help when you're searching for a house online. One of the key factors that you can look at is location. Location, right? I can't even tell you how many times I have buyers tell me that they want to find a house in a certain area or in a certain neighborhood or in a certain school district. And that's just the truth. People have specific needs and wants. So we'll set up a search criteria to look in certain areas that the buyer is interested in, to look for properties that are available for sale there. And inevitably, I'll get a text at 11:30 at night or early morning saying, hey, love this house, want to go see it. And as soon as I go into the listing and look at where the house is located, it's nowhere near exactly where they said they wanted to buy a house. And to be honest with you, it may be that they didn't even look at the location. Maybe they assumed that, hey, when my search criteria pulled in these homes for sale, that it was in a market that I was interested in. That's one of the first things you can do to filter on homes that you're looking at online, is to look at the location of the property. Is it where you want the home to be? There's 3 things that affect the saleability of a house and the value of a property, and that's price, location, and condition. And if location is not hitting it for you, then you need to make sure you're filtering that in your initial criteria before you go out and see the property and fall in love with it and realize it's not where you want it to be. The second thing you can do to sort of filter out some of those homes you see online and really, again, avoid that disappointment factor when you get there and you see it in person, is to take the address and drop it into Google Maps. Google Maps will give you the street view. Why that's important is because you're going to be able to see what the neighborhood looks like. You're going to be able to see if there's commercial property next door that was not included in the listing photos. You'll be able to see an aerial view, whether there's power lines running through the backyard or whether there's a ravine or drop off that you didn't know about. It'll help you see, what the exterior of the house looked like, but even sometimes before some of the updates might have been done on the house. If the house was sided over, so for instance, if it was a certain material on the outside or wood planking and it was sided over, you'll be able to see sometimes some of those older photos on Google Street View will show you some of that condition of that house that might be hiding underneath that shiny new exterior. So Google Street View is definitely your friend. You're going to be able to see where the highways are at, where the intersections are at. Are you looking at a house that's next to a cemetery and you don't want that? Are there schools nearby? Are there parks nearby? The Google Street View will definitely give you a lot of insight into the property that you're not going to see in the nice highlighted, well-taken photos that are in the listing. The third thing you should look at when you're looking at a listing, and this happens a lot where a buyer might be interested in a property, we send it to us and we're working within our pre-approval range, we're working within our budget, they fall in love with the house and then they take a look at taxes, what your property taxes are. So your real estate taxes are going to be part of your monthly budget, right? So it's either going to be included in your monthly payment that the real estate taxes, that component that goes to escrow, or in some cases it's your responsibility to pay that each year. So it's a big factor in your budget, and it could be a significant factor. If you take the same house from one city to the next, just a matter of a mile or a couple miles, that property tax number might significantly, affect your budget and might affect your purchasing power within some of those districts. So keep that in mind when you're looking at properties, that real estate taxes, it's not the shiny fun stuff, but it is an important factor that you should consider. So take a look at your real estate taxes when you're looking at the listing. The fourth factor that I think about when we talk with buyers, or that a buyer can really dig into, is the property type and the size. I hear it quite a bit that from a buyer who's looking for a home and they want a little bit of elbow room between their house and the neighbor's house. And then inevitably I'll start seeing addresses from them that are in neighborhoods where the houses are really tight, and from their perspective, and that's not exactly what they're looking for. And so they fall in love with the pictures, they fall in love with the style of the house, but they didn't actually see that the property might be a little smaller than what they're looking for. If you want a bigger backyard, make sure you're looking at that in the photos. Again, that's where Google Street View is going to help you, or the Google, the aerial map view. It's going to be able to look down on the property, and does it have the yard that you're looking for? Is it really close to the street? Or if you want a house that doesn't, you don't have traffic, make sure you're not selecting a home to go see that is on a busy street and the house is close to the road. If you want something that's set back a little further, make sure you're identifying the property size and the property type. Some areas, some of those properties might be in a more rural area. If you're looking for a minimum acreage, does it have the acreage and the type of acreage that you're looking for? So if you want something that has some agricultural opportunities, wooded lots, obviously going to take some investment to get it to the state where you can actually use it for agricultural purposes. If you want something where you can build a barn on it and you can use it to graze horses in a field or a pasture or something like that, make sure you're looking at some of that terrain and some of those things. Some of those are available in the photos that you see in the listing. Sometimes it's available more from a Google Street View or a Google Maps view, but a lot of that can be sort of filtered out in the beginning when you're looking at houses online. And let's be honest, statistically, it's like 80 or 90% of people actually see their homes online and fall in love with them online before they see them in person. It's very rare that anybody ever says, hey, this is the house I'm looking for. I don't want to see any pictures. Just show me where the address is and take me out there and let's see the property. So again, take a look at the pictures, take a look at the Google Street Views, take as much information as you can from the listing or from what you see on some of those third-party sites like Zillow or Realtor, and do your homework about what the property type is, how you can use it, does it fit the needs, and does it fit your tick list of your wants and desires as far as, for that property that you're going to purchase. The fifth biggest thing, and I will say this is probably the number one thing, is going to be to take a look at the photos of the interior of the house, interior and exterior actually. There's some of the big areas that you can usually see in photos. They might indicate there's probably or potentially some problems with the house, or at least some things that you might have to consider when buying the property that you might have to budget for going forward, or consider in the offer price and what the value of the house is. Some key areas that I look at, and these are things that, from an agent's perspective, when a client sends me a property address, these are things that I'm looking for in pictures. So, in the main living areas, a lot of the photos you can usually see, up towards the ceilings. Is there discoloration? Is there staining? Does it look like any of the, the ceiling material, whether it's plaster or drywall, does it look like it's cracking in any cases? Sometimes you can get a fairly good view of the windows. Do those look like they've been updated, or are they, an older style window that might need some attention or at least some regular maintenance, more so than, a modern day vinyl window? Take a look at the flooring. If there's a lot of mismatched flooring, some of it may not be your style, some of it might be something you want to change in the future. You may fall in love with how it's mixed in the photos, or you might glance over it because the square footage and the number of bedrooms and the location are perfect, but you need to consider that you might have to factor in some budget for flooring updates, after you move in, if that's something that you really, really want. Other things that you can take a look at are kitchens and bathrooms, right? Kitchens and bathrooms are probably where homeowners spend the majority of the homeowner dollars or updating dollars when they're renovating or updating a house. If the style of the kitchen, or at least the layout of the kitchen, isn't something that fits your fancy or is what you're looking for, then maybe that's something to consider when you put together your budget. The bathrooms as well. Are the bathrooms bathrooms dated? Do they need some updates? Do the fixtures look like they're somewhat new, or do you see discoloration on the fixtures? Obviously, when we take photos of properties, we're trying to get the best possible look and view of the property itself. And so there might be some things hiding. And I would tell you that the one biggest trick here is that typically if there is not a picture of a room or a space like the basement or back part of the house, you should probably ask yourself why. It's probably not the best feature of the property and something that a listing agent would not want to advertise as being a feature of the home. So sometimes that's what I think about, is if a house is listed with 3 bedrooms, maybe a bonus room and a finished basement, but there's no pictures of the basement, you've got to wonder what's going on in the basement. So just kind of go into the showing with an open mind, knowing that that might be something you might have to address, which kind of leads me to that piece of it. Basement issues can be expensive. Now, most basement issues can be repaired. Most issues can be addressed. Sometimes it's really just a matter of what's your budget for it and what's your appetite for addressing some of those issues. Foundational issues can be repaired, they can be addressed, and they can be corrected. Sometimes it's just a matter of to what extent. Is it simply bracing, or completely new structural component need to be added to the structure? So that's something also to look at in the photos, is look at portions of the basement, and even though they might be maybe some of the more boring photos, take a look at those. Really, zoom in a little bit on the corners. Do you see some discoloration in the corners that might indicate that there's some water intrusion or maybe some past water damage? Photos of the appliances and photos of the utilities. So the furnace, the hot water tank, if it has a water softener, do those look like they're aged, or do they look like they're fairly new? Sometimes the older furnaces and older components, as long as they're maintained well and have a good service history, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them. It just might mean that, hey, it's something you might have to budget for going forward. So these are all things that you can think about as you're looking at photos of a property online before you go out and see it. The goal here is to try to identify things that as you're looking at a house you might need to budget for, or at least maybe adjust some expectations before you go out and see it. On the outside of the house, some big things you can look at: is the property completely clear, or are there trees on it? If there's trees in the front yard and you have city sewer, it's definitely something you might need to think about when you get to the inspection phase. We always highly recommend that our buyers get a sewer scope done so that you're aware of the structure of the main drain that runs out to the city sewer, especially if it's an older home. Some of the older homes have clay tile pipe, and some of those pipes may it may surprise you to learn that there are 1-foot sections of clay tile that were simply lined up in a trench and buried. And so if you have trees in the front yard, you're likely going to get tree roots, or with shrubbery, the roots may actually feed down into that drain line searching for water and, inevitably clog up those drain lines. In some cases, you may even see some drain lines that have been crushed or damaged. And for most homeowners, that's a fairly expensive repair. And it's something you probably don't want to have to address right after you take possession and you move in. The other things you can look at on the outside, obviously, is condition of the exterior and windows, and hopefully you can, I've talked about this in other videos, take a peek at the roof. If you've got a good view of the roof from the photos, that might be something to keep an eye on, but that's something that can be a costly fix or a costly repair after you take ownership of the property. So hopefully that was helpful. Again, these are some tips and tricks and things that I use as an agent for our clients to scout properties and to make sure they fit what they're looking for in the property. And it's not just, a pretty house and pretty photos. We really dig deep, and these are some tips and things that you can look at as well when you're evaluating properties online. So again, if you like this video, subscribe, hang on for more. We've got more good tips for buyers, more good tips for sellers, and hope to see you guys soon. Thanks.